and welcome to Cozy Love Whispers. Settle in, get comfortable, and let tonight's chapter unfold by the fire.
Chapter 6. Shelter in His Arms, Zan. I hadn't slept. All night I turned in my bed, sheets tangled around my legs, my heart refusing to slow. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Nick, wide-eyed, trembling, trying to hold truths too heavy for anyone to carry alone. The look on his face carved itself into my chest, an ache that wouldn't fade. It drove me crazy that I couldn't bear it with him, couldn't comfort him the way an alpha is supposed to. I was meant to be strength, to shield, to steady. But last night, all I could do was hold him for a moment, then let him slip back into the quiet of his family's home. Walking away was the hardest thing I'd ever done. The sun had barely risen before I was out the door, driven by something I couldn't fight. My inner alpha, my blood, my very bones, demanded it. Check on him, make sure he's safe. Don't let him wake alone with the weight of this. Now, I stood at the small gate outside the house, forcing myself to breathe. I had no right to demand more than Nick could give. Not yet, maybe not ever. But I could be present. I could offer the one thing my heart screamed for: shelter. I lifted my hand and knocked, slow and steady, against the wood. Nikolai's father opened the door. "Hello, Zan. I'm not surprised to see you here." "Really?" I asked softly. The older man's mouth curved into a small smile. "It's where I would be if it were my wife." He stepped back, holding the door open. "Come in." I walked past him, bowing my head slightly in respect. He gestured toward the sitting room. "Please, have a seat." I sat, letting my eyes sweep across the room. It was warm, neatly decorated, with soft touches that spoke of family life. Photographs lined the walls, family gathered close, laughter caught in still frames. And in several of them, there was Nick as a little boy, round-faced and bright-eyed. I couldn't stop the smile that tugged at my lips. Even then, he'd been beautiful, sweetness written into him in a way that only deepened as he grew. "Cute little fella, huh?" I nodded. "All three of my boys were handsome fellas," he went on, voice quiet with pride. "My wife and I were blessed to have such a big family. Growing up, they were close, and they all fiercely protected Nikolai." My chest tightened. "Thank the gods," I murmured. "I'm grateful beyond words for the way you raised him, for the way you've loved him." His eyes softened, but his voice held the weight of experience. "Children are a blessing, Zan, one of God's greatest gifts." He studied me for a long moment. "But I have to ask you, are you absolutely sure you won't regret your decision to be with my son, sir?" He lifted a hand. "Let me finish. I know you've said you've come to terms with not having a child to carry on your legacy, but think carefully. You are successful, fortunate. You've acquired wealth, land, a name. When you are gone, what happens to it all? You're an only child. Your father was an only child. You told us your mother had you late in life." His gaze sharpened, not unkind, just thorough. "I don't say this to be cruel. I say it to be certain you've truly thought about what you're giving up. Your bond with little Nick has only just begun. There is still time for you to reconsider." He paused, then added gently, "No one would blame you for protecting your family's legacy. Family is important. Legacy is important." I met his gaze, steady and unwavering. "Sir, Nikolai is my family. He's my legacy. If it ends with me and him, I'm fine with that." My throat tightened, but my voice didn't shake. "The life I'm going to have with him will be worth 10,000 legacies. And besides," I exhaled slowly, "your sons have children, or one day they will. I could pass my legacy down through them. The empire my family built doesn't need to die with me, because family is more than blood. To me, it's love. It's the people you protect." Nikolai's father sat in silence, astonished at what I had just said. He hadn't expected such certainty, or such humility. In that moment, he realized I was serious, more serious than he had believed possible. He rose slowly, crossing the room, and extended his hand. "Young man, you impress me every time I meet with you." I stood and shook his hand firmly. "Thank you, sir." The older man nodded, a rare gleam of pride in his eyes. He believed now, truly, that I was the right man for his son.
The morning light had grown brighter now, spilling across the floorboards. I buried my face into the folds of my shirt once more, clinging to the fading traces of cinnamon. It wasn't enough. The more I breathed it in, the more I ached. My chest felt like it was reaching for something just out of sight, just out of reach. A murmur rose from below, voices deep and steady. My father's tone, calm but weighted. And then another voice that made my entire body still. Hiya, my Hiya. I sat up quickly, heart racing. I hadn't expected him. Not this soon, not today. My hand pressed against my chest, as though I could calm the pounding there. I tilted my head, listening harder, drawn by the cadence of Hiya's voice, drifting up through the floorboards. The sound soothed me and unsettled me all at once. My instincts whispered, go to him, find him, breathe him in. My legs swung off the bed before I'd even decided to move. The pull was undeniable. I stepped out of my room and padded down the stairs. The closer I came, the stronger the scent grew. Warm cinnamon wrapping around me, calming me like nothing else ever had. When I entered the living room, Hiya's head lifted. Our eyes met. Hiya sitting there, solid and steady, and me standing small and soft in thin pajama pants and a t-shirt. Before a word could be spoken, I crossed the room and climbed right into his lap, as natural as breathing. My arms went around Hiya's neck, my face pressing into the curve of his throat, drinking in that scent until the world finally quieted. He startled for just a heartbeat before his arms closed around me with fierce gentleness. He buried his face in my hair, breathing me in as though he'd been waiting his whole life for this. From the corner, my father watched the scene, the way I clung, the way Hiya held me like I was precious. With a small nod to himself, he quietly left the room, giving us the moment we needed. Baby, Hiya whispered, his voice rough with tenderness. Are you okay? He tried to ease me back just enough to see my face, but I only clung tighter, refusing to let go. His hand smoothed slow circles along my back. He breathed me in, letting the warmth sink deep into his chest. I shifted faintly in his arms, my breath warm against his neck. My voice was so quiet, it was almost lost in the silence. Hiya, don't leave me. The words were muffled, clinging as tightly as my arms did. His chest tightened, his heart breaking and mending all at once. He cupped the back of my head, pressing a kiss into my hair. I'm not going anywhere, baby. Not now, not ever. I breathed deeper, my whole body relaxing against him. I feel safe with you. My fingers curled into his shirt as though I was afraid to let go. When I'm close to you, the noise, the weight, it gets quiet. Hiya closed his eyes, holding me tighter as if he could shield me from the world. Then I'll stay right here, as long as you need me, forever if you'll let me. I let out a soft, shaky sound, half sigh, half hum, and nuzzled closer, my nose brushing against his skin as I breathed him in. For a long while, we just stayed like that. Two hearts pressed close, the silence of the house wrapping around us like a blanket. My breath evened out slowly against his neck, my body melting into the safety of his arms. He just held me, rocking faintly, his hand stroking my back in steady circles. The sight filled him with a fierce, quiet pride. A soft sound stirred at the doorway. Hiya glanced up and saw her, my mother, standing half hidden in the hall. Her hand was pressed to her chest, eyes shimmering with unshed tears as she watched me tucked against Hiya, clinging with everything in me. For a moment, she didn't move, afraid to break the fragile peace that had settled in the room. When their eyes met, I think Hiya expected questions, maybe even disapproval. Instead, Mom only smiled, small, trembling, but filled with so much love it nearly undid me. You're holding him just the way he's always needed, she whispered softly, her voice barely carrying across the room. He makes it easy, he murmured back, his hand never stilling on my back. I'd stay like this forever if he asked me to. A tear slipped down Mom's cheek and she brushed it away quickly, still smiling. Then maybe, you really are the one the gods chose for him. She lingered just a moment longer, as if to memorize the sight, before stepping quietly away, leaving us wrapped in each other. Don't let go, Hiya. Hiya pressed his lips to my hair, a promise sealed in silence. Never, baby, never. A moment later, my father returned, his voice low but steady. Please, take him up to his bed. First door on the right. Hiya nodded, rising carefully with me cradled in his arms. I sighed softly, my head resting against his chest as though I belonged there. Climbing the stairs, Hiya pushed open the first door and stepped into a quiet, softly lit room. He lowered me gently onto the bed, pulling the covers up around me. For a moment, he lingered, brushing a stray lock of hair from my face, letting his eyes rest on the piece there. With one last look, he slipped out and closed the door quietly behind him.
When I returned to the living room, both of Nick's parents were seated together on the couch, waiting. I took a seat across from them, my posture respectful, hands resting on my knees. For a moment, there was only silence, the weight of what had just happened still hanging gently in the air. Finally, Nick's mother spoke, her voice soft but sure. I saw the way he clung to you, the way you held him. That wasn't just instinct, Zan. That was trust. I lowered my gaze briefly, humbled. He deserves nothing less. I'll never let him feel alone in this. Her eyes shimmered, and she reached for her husband's hand. As a mother, that's all I could hope for, that someone would love him as fiercely as we do. Nick's father gave a slow nod, studying me with steady eyes. His voice carried more warmth now, less caution than before. You've said many things today that impressed me, but more than your words, it's your actions that speak. Carrying him upstairs, protecting his dignity, holding him as though he were your whole world. He paused. It tells me more about the man you are than anything else could. I met his gaze, steady and unflinching. He is my whole world, sir. From the moment I recognized him, he leaned back, exhaling slowly, as though releasing the last of his doubts. Then I believe you, and I think he does too, even if he hasn't found the words yet. Nick's mother squeezed her husband's hand, her smile tender. Our boy has always been strong, but he's never let himself lean on anyone. Seeing him in your arms, it gives me peace. My chest swelled with emotion I could hardly contain. Thank you, I whispered. I promise I'll honor the gift you've given me, always. The room fell quiet again, but it was a quiet filled with something new. Trust, acceptance, the fragile beginning of family. After another quiet moment with Nick's parents, I rose, bowing my head respectfully. Thank you for trusting me, I said softly. I'll take my leave now. Let him rest. They stood to see me out, and Nick's mother touched my arm gently before I stepped through the door. Come back soon. He'll need you. I will, I promised. Outside, the morning sun had risen fully, warm against my skin, but all I could feel was the faint memory of Nick's weight in my arms, the soft whisper of "Don't let go," Hiya echoing in my heart. The ride home passed in a blur. By the time I unlocked my own front door, I was already moving with purpose, my mind full of only one thought: make space for him, give him somewhere safe. I walked straight through the house to a quiet room at the back, just off the kitchen. It had always been a spare room, rarely used, but now I saw it differently. This room held deep significance. It was where my mother and father had first stayed together after their wedding, before my grandfather gifted them this very house, a cherished family tradition passed down through generations. Each son and heir was given this home to raise his family in, and when his own child married, he would pass it on in turn, moving into a smaller place to begin the next chapter of life. It was more than a house. It was a legacy, a living symbol of love, continuity, and new beginnings. And now, I was giving this room to Nikolai. I had decided I would create my own legacy, one shaped by my heart, not by tradition. As the last heir to be gifted this house, I would honor the past, but build a new beginning in my own way. Opening the door, I stepped inside and looked around, imagining it filled with warmth, with softness. A place not for me, but for Nick. A nest. The room was large, far bigger than the one Nick had at home. My first instinct was to paint the walls pink immediately, to cover the space with pillows, rugs, and blankets in every shade. But I stopped myself. No. It had to be Nick's choice, his sanctuary, his touch. I would let him decide every color, every blanket, every corner. Still, my heart swelled as I stood there. I could already see it. Nick curled up in safety, wrapped in comfort, breathing freely, without fear. I leaned against the doorframe, exhaling slowly, my chest tight with pride and tenderness. "This will be yours, baby," I whispered to the empty room. "Your place, your shelter." And for the first time since last night, his restless heart eased, because building a home for Nick felt like building his own future.
Thank you for listening to Cozy Fireplace Stories. If you enjoyed this chapter, please like and subscribe so you won't miss what comes next. Let your body relax and let sleep find you gently, without effort, without worry. I'll be right here. I'll meet you by the fire in the next chapter.